Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Fresh Start Show. This is Tom Cortez, co-host of the Fresh Start Show. Dr. Damon T. Holt is out of town. He had a loss in the family, so keep him and his family in your prayers, please. A couple of announcements to make. We have some guests on the show today, and we have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, so I'm going to run through this. October 19th, Tucson Convention Center, Fresh Start Expo. We are doing it again. It's going to be here. We're going to have the judges from every court, the Superior Court, the City Court, the Justice Court. We're going to have juvenile. We're going to have the fines, the fees, the restitution, all of those things on a Saturday. The judges are taking off the robes, putting on some jeans, and coming out and changing some people's lives. And we're also going to fill the 2CC with resources from housing to behavioral health to mental health to jobs and resources, whatever it is that we need to move forward in a flourishing fashion so that we can not only provide for ourselves, but to provide for our families. Now that's Fresh Start Tucson, and that's the fourth one we're going to have. And this year, starting November 2nd, at Grand Canyon University, it's the Fresh Start Expo Maricopa County for the first year. And we're going to have the judges up there, and we're going to be able to handle things from Maricopa County, and we're going to be able to give people a chance for a fresh start without all of the things, the weights on their back and dragging it every day and going out with warrants on them, having to worry about if they're going to get pulled over and not be able to provide for their families. You know what? Get out there to see us, and we can be able to squash those warrants. We restructure those fine payments, eliminate those fine payments, get your rights back, expunge your record, seal your record, which January 1st came into effect. So now they can't look into your background for housing or for jobs. If you are 3 years from a non-dangerous felony conviction on absolute discharge, we can seal your record. So we're moving forward, okay? And now we're in Maricopa, and we're going to be in other counties to come. And what we're here today to talk about, and let me tell you, what we're here today to talk about is November 5th. November 5th is the general election. And as I've been harping on this for weeks now, because I told the story of me getting my election rights returned to me so that I could go vote, and I did go vote on July 30th, and now I'm going to be able to vote on November 5th in the presidential election for the second time in my life. The first time I voted in 1980 for the independent candidate John Anderson when I was 18 years old. And for the second time in my life at 62 years old, I'm going to get to vote for the presidential candidate and have my voice be heard in the general election again. And I am so very proud of that. I am so very proud of the fact that I've come so far to get back to this point. And that's what gets me to our guests today. We have the League of Women Voters here with us today. Emily and Linda are here, and they're going to introduce themselves, and they're going to tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters. I'm going to ask you right now, get down a piece of paper and a pen, because you're going to need to write some things down. We really need you to pay attention because there's some things that have changed. With all the legal stuff that's gone over in the last 8 years with elections, a lot of things have changed. And yes, we're accountable for all those things. And let's get out there and have all of our voices be heard. And I'm going to let them come in and tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters. And they've got a number of dates and opportunities for people to volunteer, join, whatever it may be. Okay, and we're going to shoot it back and forth, and we're going to talk about this coming election and the importance of this coming election for the moral direction of this country. And you know, on this show, we speak truth to power. We are not going to pick and choose. We are just going to speak right down the middle, and we are going to tell you that the election is the most important thing that you can do on November 5th is to have your voice heard. Because I'll tell you what, we just did a primary election where about 1/10 of the population of Pima County turned out to vote in the primary election. That means that 90% of the population in Pima County doesn't care who makes decisions in the lives of them and their families. Okay, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. I believe you care who makes decisions for your family and your friends and your household. So let's get registered and let's get out to vote. Linda, come on in and explain to us a little bit about the League of Women Voters, please.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody. I'm Linda McCabe. I am the Voter Services Chair. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of the League. We are 104 years old, And our main mission is to register voters and to provide information about voting and the election so people can make great decisions for themselves and their family. So going back now to talk about registering to vote, I think it's really important people know that you have to register to vote by October 7th. That's the deadline. After that, if you register to vote, it's for next year. So October 7th, make sure you're registered to vote. I would say if you plan on registering to vote, that you can do it in several ways. You can go online to servicearizona.com. That's servicearizona.com, and you would need either an Arizona driver's license or an Arizona identification. If you don't have that, your next best bet is to go and find somebody that is registering voters, which would be the Pima County Recorder's Office on Stone, or there are many, many people out in the community right now, every place registering people to vote. Now, if you don't have an Arizona driver's license or Arizona identification, then the form that you'll be filling out will be the national voter registration form, and you'll need your Social Security number for that. But you'll only be able to vote in the federal election on that, which would mean the president, the senators, and congressmen. So if you don't have an ID and you are an Arizona ID and you are able to go get one, I would tell you to go get one before October 7th, so you can vote what we call the full ballot. In other words, from president all the way down to the school board in your area. I also would tell you to check your registration. Make sure that the date's correct, the address is correct, everything on there looks the same. And also I want to tell you to go to recorder.pima.gov, because this is a great source of information for all the kinds of things that you're going to need for the election. If you choose not to have your ballot sent by mail, which you decided to do when you registered to vote, and you like to go and vote at sites, there are 126 voting centers that you'll be able to go to. And Pima, recorder.pima.gov has all of those 126 voting centers for you to go to. You can get your ballots by mail. You can request them until October 25th. So if you didn't request one, you still have the opportunity to get it in the mail. If you'd like to sit, some people like to sit with theirs and go through it and look things up and kind of think about them before they mail their ballots in. So I would tell you that you can also avoid crowds if you decide to go to the voting centers by voting early. And we encourage voting early, because there's 126 places, and you can stop and go in and just get it done and leave, and you'll be complete. I would also recommend to people that they take a little piece of paper and write everything down if they're going out to a voting center to vote, so that when they get the ballot up in front of them, and the ballot this year is going to be 2 or 3 pages, because we have many propositions this time.
Wow.
And some of them will be local. For instance, there are school districts that have bonds that are coming up, so people are going to want to read those and decide how they want to vote. So if you take a piece of paper with you and write everything down, on the propositions, the number, and yes or no, after you read them, you can go and find them on the Secretary of State's website. There's 15 of them, so there's quite a bit of reading. But there are places like ballotpedia.com. They have the propositions, and they break them down a little bit for you. So that's a little bit about the voting but I want to talk about how important voting is, because people don't realize what one vote does. And we were just talking in here about the fact that Thomas Jefferson was elected president by one vote. I know so many things happen in so many municipalities that people are elected by one vote. And sometimes that means the difference to people, whether they get a park or not, or how much money is allocated to help the people in the city. And it's so important that everybody vote. And we were also talking in here about high schools and how important it is to get our young people that will be 18 by November 5th to vote. And the League of Women Voters has been working with the school districts around the Tucson area to get the students to vote. So they've been a little apathetic this year, but I'm hoping that they're starting to pay attention. And I know TikTok is just a flurry with all kinds of information about the candidates and the speeches that they're out giving and what people are talking about they'll do if they're elected to the variety of positions. So I hope that they will start paying attention. And once again, they can go to servicearizona.com and register to vote if they have the Arizona IDs. And we also are going to high schools in the next coming few weeks, and we always take them little treats and register them and give them some more information about the propositions and actually who's running, because people don't really know what people like the Corporation Commission do or the school boards do. Right. So we're going to give them a little information about that as well.
That's nice. I'm harping on it every week that we got anywhere from 200,000 to 250,000 individuals in the state of Arizona that are disenfranchised from voting because they have a felony conviction on the record. All they have to do is fill out a piece of paper and come before us. We'll get them before a judge and we'll get their voting rights back. We could change every election in the state with 250,000 votes.
We could. And when you come to our voter registration tables, we have the information there for people. And when someone walks by our table and they say, I can't vote, I immediately hand them the papers because we know how hard that must be for them, not to be able to vote, because they're a part of the community and we want them to be able to be fully engaged and with their families and their friends and be able to talk about this and be able to actually participate.
I can speak to the fact that on election days, when people came out and they had their little sticker on, and I couldn't. It hurt.
I know.
It hurt, and it made me different, and it made me separate from everybody else in the community, And I think for the high school kids that we're talking about, this makes you part of the community. This makes you part of the adult community that's making decisions in this society for our futures and for your children's futures.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, and we were talking about the numbers earlier. There's less than 20% of the 18-year-olds in Pima County registered to vote right now. And in 2020, we had an election where 18 to 24-year-olds turned out in droves. Almost 80% of them turned out and voted in 2020 elections. We need to do that again. We need to do that with the disenfranchised, with the kids coming out of high school, with the college students, But you spoke earlier when we talked that you guys are going to have some programs where you explain what the propositions are, where you explain the candidates, where you go over some of these things so people can be educated so they can make an informed decision and not just check boxes.
That's right. And Emily is going to talk a little bit about some programs that we have.
Sure, I can do that. So I'm Emily Bridson. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, and we're really glad to be here today. So the League's nonpartisan. So what Lynn had said, we really just provide information, register voters, and really just try to encourage people to participate. So our mission is empowering voters and defending democracy, right? We don't care who you vote for or what you do, but we really just want you to be involved. And so part of the work that we do is not only voter registration, but having educational forums and also debates as well with political candidates, of which there's a ton going on right now. But the first place you can look is on our website, so lwvtucson.org. And Linda had mentioned there's 15 propositions this year, which is a ton, right?
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. And I love going, I vote by mail now because it gives me time to really be thoughtful, to think through things. And if I really don't know something, then I look it up.
Right.
I used to go to the polls, which was really great. But sometimes I would get to a judge and I wouldn't be sure. And so now I like to have time to really sit down and be thoughtful.
Wow.
And with 15 propositions, that's a ton. So we are going to be doing presentations on all the propositions. So if you do want to have someone come out. So basically what we say is, hey, with this proposition, a yes vote means this. A no vote means that, right? We don't say do this, do that. That's for you to decide, right? And you can say, okay, I'm in favor of this or I'm not in favor of that, and making your own decisions. So truly it's about education, right, Linda?
Yes.
So anytime you, so lwvtucson.org, you can go on there, request a presentation to your group or to your club or whatever it is. We're happy to come out. We'll go through it and answer any questions as well as far as the voting process. So a couple of programs that are coming up. One is next week, Saturday the 14th. It's at Murphy Wilmot Library. It's on misinformation and the election. So we're going to talk about how do you look and determine if it's misinformation and what do you do? And one of the big things that we're seeing just from having forums this year is that, at least I've seen it, it's just I feel like it's very hard to have a conversation in a discussion and trying to be civil.
Yeah.
Regardless of, and it's really interesting in Arizona, a third of us are Democrats, a third of us are independents, and a third of us are Republicans. So we're really spread out on the political spectrum. But, we're hopeful that these programs that we put on, it's about having a thoughtful discussion where you walk away and say, okay, I've learned more about this candidate. I really like them, or their values match up with mine, or with these forums like on the misinformation next Saturday. Hey, I've learned now how to distinguish, on social media. Is this accurate information?
Right,
Is this
right. Very good.
not accurate
That's
information?
important.
Right. Because I think there's so much out there, and news and
In
media.
AI.
Yes. Yeah.
You see somebody who people admire saying something, and they're not saying it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's fake.
Yes.
Right.
And it's not even true.
Right.
Yeah, and we got to watch that.
So we encourage everybody. It doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. So it's about having thoughtful discussions and just educating folks so they can make the best choices for themselves.
So if I go to this and I take a bunch of notes, can I take those notes with me to the voting? If I go to vote,
Probably not.
right? So no, that goes to what you're talking about. Is
Right.
that you can sit at home, you can be very thoughtful,
Yes.
you can research this, you have notes from these things that you guys are doing to explain things to people.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're going to be rushed in the polls,
Well, yeah.
and you can't do that, and you can't bring like a list that how you're going to vote.
Well, you can take in a sheet of paper that has,
Right.
who you want. But I don't think that they want you standing in there
Right,
going
right.
through your lecture notes. But-
Yeah, I mean, going toward your point that a slow, thoughtful process of
Yes.
making an informed decision on each decision is essential.
And have these discussions with your families and friends.
Yes.
Some of the best places
Civilly,
that
please.
you learn. Yes, it's the best place you learn from each other. Why do you think that? Why, what? And it's our experiences that we bring to the poll. It's, what we discern, as you were talking about, that's true and what is not, and how do we distinguish that? And talk about that with your family and your friends.
And there's so much misinformation out there.
Yes.
And it depends on what channel you watch
Yeah.
to see what tilt you get. I remember the news when it was just the news.
Right. Wouldn't
When
that
I
be
was
lovely?
a little kid, I mean, they said the newsmen were men of integrity
Yeah.
They were. You
because
think about
all they did was read the news.
Walter Cronkite,
Yes.
Huntley and Brinkley.
Yes.
I mean, well, and there's
Ted Koppel.
Yes,
Yes.
I mean exactly right. So there was a time when that was true, but of course, that went away in the 1990s with the legislative act that dropped away, and Congress chose not to renew it. So now basically you have to look at the news, as we're going to do
Yeah.
next week, and figure out what's true and what's not. Is it entertainment, or is it actually fact?
Right.
The other program we're going to have on the 21st of September, it's called Securing the Ballot, and that'll be at the Junior League office. And we have a host of election officials, so from Pima County, Pinal County, and Maricopa. They'll talk to us about the actions being taken to ensure a successful election. So we want to have a safe, accurate, fair election. And so all those different elections officials will go through. So The other thing we talked about, we had a voter registration training last night, and it's so complicated. There's so many nuances, and I hate to say that, like on the backside. On the backside.
It's true.
That's terrible.
I
though.
texted Linda afterwards. I'm like, what's happening right now? Because I came from Michigan a couple years ago. Everybody gets a ballot, and you fill it out and turn it in. Like,
Yeah.
that is actually it. There's,
Yeah.
but we have tribal nations here. We, where you can't use P.O. boxes. We, there's all these different requirements, like we talked about. If you don't have an Arizona driver's license or an ID, like that's a little bit different, right? Because of a ruling that happened last month, right? So there's just a lot of nuances, but what we understand is people really want to believe everything is fair, everything is secure, and everything is done with the utmost diligence. And so all those officials will be in to tell us, like, here's what we do. Here's the things that we take into consideration. They're consummate professionals, and they do the best they can to like make sure everything is like spot on, accurate. So we don't have to worry about, hey, did my vote count? Did they get my ballot? None of that. So I think that's important too, because we all want to feel, and we should know, hey, here's how things are handled, and I know everything's going to be safe and secure. That's a big thing.
It is. Talking about that, talking about propositions, all three of those things are online, right? On our website. You can go and get the information to either sign up and request a proposition speaker or find out more information about the
So
other
if your
pieces.
group wants somebody to come out and explain the propositions, you guys will arrange that, and somebody will come out and
That's correct.
that's beautiful. That's great. Yeah.
Or we can probably do a voter registration drive too, can't we?
Well, we're at October 7th is coming up in 3 weeks. So, yes, if I'm not going to hold any volunteers' feet to the fire here, but we can certainly ask volunteers to come out to an organization, a nonpartisan and not political organization, or a candidate, and we can do a voter registration for
Wow,
them.
that'd be great.
And I think the last thing, if we're running out of time, is our program this year to get people out to vote is called Ready, Set, Vote. So READY is gathering all the information together. Where, we've talked about these websites. Where do we go to find out the information? We're looking at our ballot. The set part is, how am I going to vote? Am I going to vote by ballot? Am I going to sit down? Am I going to read through it and be thoughtful, as Emily said? Am I going to go with my friends on a Saturday morning and have breakfast after we
Right.
go register, after we go vote?
Yeah, make it
So
a
that'll
thing.
be the set part, and then finally it'll be the voting part. We went in, we took our list with us so that we'd remember what number and if it was a yes or a no, and then we're ready, and we've contributed our significant one vote to the whole process of making our communities better.
And I'll tell our audience right now, you know who registered me to vote?
Who?
The League of Women Voters.
Yay!
Because you guys actually came and tabled one of our Fresh Start
Nice.
clinics.
We do the fresh
Yes,
starts.
you
We
did
do.
the Fresh Start clinic, and I registered that day. Our first Fresh Start clinic that we did, I registered that day.
That
That's
is
awesome.
so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think your video is on our page.
Yes, and there's another video about when I registered that day. That's pretty
I saw
cool
that.
too. It's been a long journey,
Yes.
and there's a whole lot of people just like me that care, and they want to be part of the system, and they want to be part of the community, and they want to help make decisions, and they want to be respected for that. And we call to them, and I call to them constantly because you're going to get out of there, and you're going to have kids, and you're going to have a future, and things are going to work for you, and we're going to have the resources that are necessary for you to be successful.
Yes.
Be part of this system and help us make the decisions, and help us choose the people and the processes and the institutions that are going to help our people.
Well, and to be honest, they're your tax dollars. They're Linda's tax dollars. They're your tax dollars. They're
Yes.
my tax. And it's all of our community, right?
Yeah.
I live in Flowing Wells School District. You probably live in a different one. Linda does too. To have our say in how our schools are run, or
Yes.
who the president is, or how at the county, how our taxes are spent on our priorities, there's nothing more important than that. Like, honestly, making our community stronger in the way that lines up with your values. I mean, that's exceedingly powerful.
That's why I was so stunned at the numbers at the, I know it's a preliminary election, but that's why I was so stunned at those numbers. And if you're going to let 10% of the people choose who makes decisions and what those decisions are for you, man, you're in the wrong seat. Let's get out there and let's get registered and let's vote, because we got a decision to make this year toward the future of Tucson, Arizona, in this country. And if you register to vote, your voice will be heard in that decision. We thank you for coming out. Don't forget, October 19th and November 2nd, Fresh Start Expo is at Pima County and Maricopa County. Good day. Happy Saturday. Have a fresh start. God bless.